it's rolling, so whatever you
We're
say
on.
is... Look at the snow on the top of my car.
Huh.
This crap's still in my pants. I'm at my light that I run with. Be good to your brother.
This
Welcome.
Is it. Yeah.
I'm nervous.
I don't know who to look at.
Well, the camera's looking at me.
Gosh dang it.
Let me fix this.
This is
a rough start.
That's perfect though. That's just
And now it's out of focus.
just an opportunity to get better.
Just It's still wanting to look at me. As long just stay there. Mic's working. Good enough, I think, right? Let's try to angle it this way a little bit. I don't know what this is. I've never used this before. I need Dad here. Anyhow, that's good enough. We're in. Be good to your brother. What is the day? The 16th?
It is the 16th of February. Here's 2025. This is a start. It's a show of self-improvement.
Uh-huh. We're going to try to get after it a little bit and see what we can get into. I guess we can introduce ourselves. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Jake Kirby. I'm just a good old boy from Eastern Kentucky. I'm a sinner. I fear God, and I want to get better. I think as far as professional life, I'm an industrial contractor. Do a lot of work for Toyota affiliate companies. Yeah, simple guy. There's not much to me.
Well, I'm kind of in a similar boat here. My name's Gabe Hall. I like how you said this, I'm also a sinner, and I fear God. We had church this morning, and it's pretty good time. We had a nice meal. When it comes to me, though, I'm a student at Eastern Kentucky University, about to graduate, thankfully. It's been... I don't know if I'm a fan of it or not, but that's a topic for another day that we can dig into. But no, I'm about to graduate in May. I'm the youth minister at Rice Station Christian Church. That's been a whirlwind of things, but it's going all right. I've been doing it for about a year now. What else is about me? We'll probably talk about it a little bit here, but we're really working on self-improvement. Over the past 2 years, I've kind of went on a run streak of 560 days as of this morning, and
560.
And so we're gonna get into that a little bit. Football number was 65. Now it's 560 days in a row of running at least 2 miles a day. But we'll probably get into that a little bit later on. What we want to hit on in this show?
Well, so our mission statement, I guess we can go ahead and get there. Our mission statement is we want to be a resource for anyone interested in self-improvement and provide an education stream of self-improvement systems. The methods of which you want to get better. I think we'll explore a whole lot of different topics over I don't know how long we'll do this, or
we'll see where it takes us.
Yeah, we'll just see where it goes.
We're going to do this as long as we have fun doing it.
We'll keep talking in this room, and if anybody listens, I'm sorry.
But how we're doing this, we talked about it. We had a meeting yesterday with us two and TK.
Big TK.
TK's listening. I know he is. But we came up. He said you need core values. If you're gonna have a podcast, you need to have at least three core values. And I really liked his. His was, what was it? Faith, family, and integrity. And I really liked that. But I came up with a core value of mine, which is accountability. I've tried to hold myself accountable for many of my actions over in this whole running thing and, losing weight. And accountability has been big for me. So we came up with that one. And Jake, what was yours that you came up with?
I think I added authenticity. Authenticity is really important to me. I won't be anything but myself. I try to never meet a stranger.
Yeah.
And I think I think people need authenticity. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's a whole lot of smoke in our lives. A lot of influencers we watch, and
Mm-hmm.
you watch a TikTok of somebody's life. That's 30 seconds of
Yeah.
I mean, there's small people on the internet, so that's
Mm-hmm.
a really small part of their life, and I think it's a big thing. We want to focus on long and free form discussions
Yeah.
uh, to maintain authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
I want to bring what I am, what I know, and try not to BS too much.
Yeah. Now we'll hit more on that because I kind of want to talk a little bit about authenticity and my kind of I guess my struggles with it, or how that, I don't know, kind of my journey with it. I definitely want to talk about that later, but we had one more thing. When we were talking about it yesterday, it was like, well, we got accountability and authenticity. Let's just add one more A, and we'll have it the 3 A's. We didn't want to call it triple A because we didn't want to get.
Yeah, there's some litigation issues there.
Yeah, so we wanted to call it the 3A's. So we were like looking for stuff. Like, well, what has to do with friendship? Well, what has to do with compassion? And we pulled out the thesaurus, and we came up with allegiance as our third A, allegiance. There's nothing much, behind that, other than, well, it fits into the 3 A's, and it also, if you're loyal to one another, you're loyal to your brother, as the title of the show is. That'll take you a long way, being loyal to people. So we really wanted to hit on that too. So what's the first thing we want to get into here? You got any stories you want to share?
Not yet. I want to add on to the allegiance.
Okay.
You touched on the title. If we're Be Good to Your Brother, if that's our show, the Be Good to Your Brother podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Allegiance. We have a lot of shared background.
Yeah.
We grew up in the same little town of Irvin in Estill County, and
Mm-hmm.
that's maybe more information than you want to give out, and I apologize. We can cut it out if we got to. We
Cut that out.
Yeah, cut that out.
Pull that up.
Producer, cut that. So, but no, I mean, we played football together.
Mm-hmm.
We grew up together.
Yep.
You thought I was poor for
It's a story for another day.
Wow.
Story for another day.
That can be a story for today if we want to. It don't matter. But I look at you like a brother, and I think that allegiance is really important. There's a lot of trust in allegiance, and I think we need more of that in the world.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that a lot. I view you the same way. I never had a brother, so I always looked at my friends as brothers and to lean on, and I think I've found some good ones. So, got anything else you want to add to that about our mission statement or our core values?
Well, I mean, I feel like we'll have a lot of core values.
Yeah, I think we'll expand on that.
To limit it to 3 is a little
kind of
dishonest, but I think that's a really good foundation of where we want to be. I think every topic we'll talk about on the show we could call that a core value.
Yeah.
And every time we have a show, we'll just add that to her.
Mm-hmm.
It'll just be another feather in our hat.
Yeah.
Speaking of brotherhood, I do have a brother. I have a younger brother. You know him well.
Old Mason, old Bob Bar.
Little Red. Red's
He ain't little no more.
No, he's pretty big. To add to allegiance, that kid is awesome.
Yeah.
I couldn't brag enough on him. I don't want to get too emotional first episode, but
I want to start crying on us.
He's really important to me, and I would not be the man I am without Mason.
Yeah.
We did a football camp. I shared that we played football together. We were in high school football, and we had a new coach, and he wanted to host a football camp for the youth programs.
Mm-hmm.
And we had Pete, Big Pete.
Old Pete.
What was he?
Shout out Pete.
Was he like 6'8" or something? It was crazy.
He's huge.
He's taller if he straightens his back out.
He might have been like 6'4".
He felt 6'8" to me.
He felt massive.
I'm a little guy, so I'm a big little guy. But this big dude, he was an upperclassman. I believe we were sophomores.
Yeah.
But Mason, my little brother, he was part of the youth program, and he came out to the youth camp, and it was cool for me to get to coach him for the first time.
Yeah.
And we were doing a drill one day, and I was over there with Pete running the drill, and Mason was in the drill we were running, and Pete was picking on me in a playful way. And
yeah.
nothing, no harm, but my little brother, he didn't think there was, he didn't think it was peaceful.
Yeah.
He tried to fight Pete, and he could not have swung to hit him in the face, but he tried to push him, and I think that's a great representation. That's a great story to represent Mason.
Yeah.
Who Mason is, he is, and to tie it in with authenticity, Mason is authentic as you get.
He'll tell you how it is.
He shoots you straight.
He won't sugarcoat nothing.
No, he don't. And he's kind of a goofy guy, but when he's got an opinion on something, it's solid, and he'll hold you to it.
I like that. I like that you brought up Mason because I've had a lot of experiences with Mason. Just even being over here playing video games with him,
making him cry. Poor kid.
He's a good guy.
He is.
I love Mason. He's a good one. But well, I guess we can segue here from these core values. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about my morning. This morning, I didn't know if I was gonna get out my canoe or get out my ice skates to come over here this morning. I woke up I got up at 6:10 this morning. I'm like, oh crap, I gotta go run. I got up at 6:10. It was 54 degrees outside. I'm like, it's perfect weather. It was supposed to rain. It was supposed to rain, but when I got out to town, got out to my running route this morning, it wasn't raining. It was still dark out. This week's been a struggle for me, running wise, because I've just been so worn out over the past. I've ended up. Yesterday was the end of week 4, marathon training. So I got a marathon in April that I'm training for right now. Big time. Kind of nervous for it, but I'll get it done. I mean, there's no question about it. I'm confident in it, but it is a little nerve wracking doing something you never done before. But I was supposed to do 15 miles today. I was actually supposed to do it yesterday, but it rained so much I pushed it off until today. And so I did 2 extra miles yesterday to get me to 13. Then I had to do an extra 1.7 to make up for my run on Wednesday or Thursday, just because I was on the treadmill and I just couldn't hack it. I don't know what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
But I caught up anyways. But I got out this morning and I took probably 5 steps to run. I'm like, this is going to be the worst experience of my life. Because I ran kind of late last night, and, I didn't have a lot of recovery time. I ran 5.7 miles yesterday.
Yeah.
Then to get up and run 13 this morning. But anywho, I was on the struggle bus this morning, but I get about 4 miles into it. Sun's starting to come up, and it's Sunday morning. And you just have all these thoughts come to your head. It's like, well, what am I going to talk about at church this morning with the little kids? Oh, what am I going to do tonight with the youth group? What am I going to talk about in this podcast? And just all the thoughts are kind of flowing in my head. And I just kind of look up and I just kind of have a moment. I'm like, God's got me. I can get through this. I mean, it's going to be hard, but I can get through this run. God's got me. So I'm running down by El Ranchito. Turn around by El Ranchito, coming back up River Drive. Love that place. Love El Ranchito.
El Ranchito's good.
But turn around, coming back up. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make a little video. So I recorded a little video, posted on TikTok once I got back home. I thought it was pretty good, talking about sacrificing and sacrificing, time, sacrificing yourself for others type deal. And I didn't say it in the video. I probably should have, but if you're going to be a Christian, your life is going to be full of sacrifice. I mean, if you're wanting to improve yourself, your life is going to be full of sacrifice. So, not going by the status quo, not going by what the world wants, going by, what Jesus is telling us to do in his teachings and in the gospel and in the Bible. So, I was just kind of hitting on that a little bit, and, I was just kind of reflecting, so I made that little video. And I was feeling good until about mile 9. I turned around. I'm like, this is brutal. It was the slowest mile on the run, but anywho, I'm like, man, I'm just gonna quit at 10. I'm just gonna quit at 10 and just gonna take the L. I'm just gonna quit at 10. Well, I'm running back. I parked there by Steam Engine in town. park there by steam engine. So I pass steam engine, and that's 6.4. So I get over down to go time, up on Main Street, and I turn around, and when I come back to steam engine, that'll make it about 9. I'm like, well, I'm gonna go to 10, and I'm gonna turn around and come back. Well, I get to 10, and the sun's already up at this point.
Yeah.
It's getting dark outside. I can feel the weather drop. The temperature's cooling down. I'm running. I don't have a shirt on because I took it off because it was just weighing me down. I took it off, stopped by the car. At the 9-mile mark, I stopped at the car, got a swig of water, and I kept going. So I get to 10. It's getting dark, and I feel the wind just almost like come in like a hurricane almost, and just it starts pushing me forwards. It was at my back, thankfully. And it just starts pushing me forwards, and I'm running almost like I'm floating almost. It's so
awesome.
wild. Well, then it got cold. Then I start hearing the rain behind me. I'm like, uh-oh. Then all of a sudden, it feels like I'm just getting pelted with like shotgun beads and just pouring the rain. I'm like, I can't stop now. I got to go 13. I'm just going to embrace this.
There you go.
So I just... I keep steady with my pace. I just kind of dig in. It's pouring the rain. I'm listening to Unashamed podcast by the Duck Dynasty guys.
Oh,
I'm
cool.
listening to them this morning. And they were just kind of talking. I wasn't really paying attention, but it was in my ear. And they were kind of just talking, and I just kind of dig in there for a second. And I get back to El Ranchito. Well, that's the turnaround point. Well, if the wind's at my back and the rain's hit me in my back,
Yeah.
I got to turn around and run 2 more miles back to the car. So I turn around, and it was just like I was, like someone had me by a leash, and I just couldn't go forward. It was crazy. Just the wind blowing, the rain pelting me in the face. I'm staring down. It's just the worst rain that I've ever been outside in this morning. And I'm sitting here. It's probably 41 degrees. And thankfully, I still had my gloves in my pocket, or my fingers wouldn't have been able to work. But I was trying to struggle to put my gloves on. Put my gloves back on. It's pouring the rain. I'm out in this mess in Ravenna, and this guy pulls up next to me. Almost like a lifeline it would have been if I really needed it. This guy pulls up next to me. He rolls his window down. He's like, "Hey, do you need a ride?" And I look at him. I'm like, I really want this ride, but I'm like, I still got a mile and a half to go. I look at him. I said, "No, man, I'm good." He said, "You sure?" I said, "Man, I'm good." So he takes off, and I finish out the run. And about, 3 minutes later, it quits raining real hard. Yeah. And the rest of it, was easy going. But it's funny, though, how that run this morning, how you could relate that to so many different aspects of your life when it comes to struggle. Because I struggled, or I wouldn't say I struggled throughout the run, but it wasn't a real good, time-wise, it wasn't a real good run for me. It wasn't a real fast run, but I just had to get it done. And some of these things in life, you just got to do. You just got to get done. And it's going to be hard, and sometimes, you're going to get thrown into a storm of all these things going around, and you got 2 options. I could have turned right back around to the car because, I was pretty close to it when that happened. I could have turned around and said, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to quit. I'm going to give up here. Because I was telling myself the whole run, I'm going to quit here. I'm going to quit here. I'm going to quit here. And I just never did. Like something was just pushing me to not do that. I mean, everything around me was telling me to quit. My body was telling me to quit. My mind was telling me to quit. The weather was telling me to quit. This guy pulls up next to me. He's like, "Hey, do you need a ride?" That's giving me that lifeline to quit. And I could have, but I didn't. I guess that was just my heart telling me. It's like, "Hey, you need to keep going. You have to do this." Because going back to that accountability, you told not only yourself, but you told all these other people that you're going to do it as well. And that's where I kind of wanted to hit on the story about accountability here, is that every day on Snapchat for 560 days now, 560 days, I send a picture to 2. I send a picture to 2 group chats. I got a group chat with you, which you don't use Snapchat anymore, but I send it to them anymore. I send it to you, Caleb, and Jake, and Noah. Sorry,
Yeah.
you, Caleb, and Noah. I send it to you guys, and then I have a group chat with a bunch of the guys from church, and I send the same. I take a picture. I can describe how the run was. Sometimes I go real in depth. Sometimes I don't. I do that, and I write the day at the bottom of it with a check mark, and I send it to them. And I tell usually like how this went and what I got to do for tomorrow as well. Well, here lately, once I started this marathon prep, I started a Snapchat story, and there's like 20 people on it that wanted to join in on it, and I sent that out there. I'm like, hey, and I sent yesterday. I said, well, I had to make up, so I got to run 13 miles tomorrow. Well, those 20 people on there looking at me. Well, if I don't run the 13 miles tomorrow, what does that mean? What is this?
Yeah.
All this stuff that I've been saying? It's not coming from a truthful spot because I just lied to them that I'm not going to run the 13 miles tomorrow, and that's always in the back of my mind. Well, am I doing what I'm actually? Am I being hypocritical? Am I actually going to do what I say that I'm going to do? And that's been the biggest part of me in my whole, I'm still improving and trying to improve. I'm not the best. Matthew McConaughey said it's like, well, I want to be the guy 10 years down the line from me.
I want to be me in 5 years.
Yeah, or whatever he said.
I like
so
that.
I always want to get better each and every day. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But how am I going to do that if I'm not holding myself accountable? If I'm not, trying to push myself the extra mile? And that's been the biggest part of me in my whole self-improvement is just having that accountability factor of, whether people know it or not. I don't want to say I'm looking for others for, what's the word, like who am I trying to impress type deal. I'm not looking for others to look at me as like, oh, look at this guy. He's all big and bad out here in this monsoon. I'm not looking, or at least I don't think, I hope I'm not looking for that. For that other people's approval of me. But I'm really just doing it for myself, and what I say to other people, it kind of motivates me. So I use that as a motivation factor of that accountability. That's just kind of what I wanted to hit on this morning, or this afternoon, about my run this morning and how we were talking about accountability and how I use that for how I use Snapchat and sending pictures to other people. Just kind of little updates that keeps me accountable, keeps me on the right path.
That's interesting. If we've got any UFC guys listening, I know you watch a little bit of UFC, don't
Every
you?
now and then.
So I'm sure you know McGregor, Conor McGregor,
Yeah.
the Notorious. And
Yeah.
he's got a quote, and I'll probably butcher it, but to paraphrase him, he says it's disrespectful to those who support you if you have your goals and you have this belief in yourself and you have things you want to accomplish, and you've got all these people in your corner that believe in you. It's disrespectful for you not to do the work. It's disrespectful to them if they're pouring out this energy and resources, even if it's just like emotional energy. If they're pouring that out for you and you don't pursue that, it's disrespectful to them. You're not showing up. Like if you can't even show up for yourself, you're not showing up for them.
Yep.
What are you doing? You gotta show up, and that's, you can tie that in with your run streak. 560 days. That's 560 days of showing up, and you showed up for you and for the people that believe in you. And you talked about having the wind on your back, and it was like you were floating. You never would have experienced that if you didn't show up. There's so much value in just showing up, and I feel like that gets overlooked. Like, people. I mean, you're in marathon prep, but somebody out there is just in 5K prep. Like I'm not the runner, you're the runner. I do like running because running is like it's a conversation with yourself because every part of you wants to quit, but you've got to convince yourself somehow or another to keep going. And once you find your groove, it gets easier and easier. That's really similar to the ice bath. The ice bath is just you and yourself. You got to keep going. You got to get that 5 minutes or whatever your goal is. You're talking to yourself and you're trying to convince yourself to stay in there. There's a lot of value in doing hard things and showing up. Like, showing up is ridiculously important. I mean, there's not a whole lot that's special about me. All I've got going for me is that I've got the ability to show up. I've gotten everywhere I've gotten just by showing up. Not that I've made it too far or anything. I'm not trying to like impress anybody. Everything I've gotten just from showing up, and it's a good example of an experience you would never have gotten if you hadn't showed up for that run. And you said you had a lot of you were worried about that run and didn't want to do it, and you showed up and you had that cool experience.
Yeah,
got it. There's so much learning you can do,
and I'm happy now, that I did it and that I experienced it.
Goggins talks about the amount of life you can live while you're running. He talks because he does the ultra marathons like the Moab 240 where you're on in a desert and you're on top of a freezing mountain at night, and then you're running into the next day and you're falling over and sleeping for like 5 minutes and you're back up and you're running. It's crazy. And he talks about, gosh, I just had it. I lost it. It's somewhere. I lost it.
Well, that's all right. That's all right. But I'm glad you brought up the showing up, because that's something I've kind of struggled with this week, just wanting to even go into class. I've still went to class this week, and even I just want to lay in the bed just because I'm so tired all the time. It seems like I just want to lay in the bed. I don't want to do nothing. But that was actually something I said. What was it? It might have been Thursday or Friday's little update post. I said something about showing up, and showing up's half the battle. It really is. Showing up is half the battle. I firmly believe that, because once you're there, I mean, it's pretty easy. It's just getting to that point, taking a step out the door, or getting to that job, or just doing whatever. Once you're there, I mean, you have no excuse to just quit. You're there, might as well go ahead and do it. Is the way I look at it. And I'm glad you brought that up, because there's this guy on TikTok I watch. His name is Run Ross Run. He's he's the interesting guy. I like watching his content, but he's got like maybe 200 followers. Like, he's real small. He doesn't get a lot of views or comparatively to other people, but that's kind of his motto is like, hey, just show up, just do it. Like, just get out and do it. Be there. Be a part of it. And it also comes not just to running or working out, but that also comes to when you have a family, or when you have a responsibility to be there. Or, I mean, there's no telling how much you being there for someone else, how much that really means to them. Even if you're not really doing something with them, you're just in their presence. There's no telling how invaluable that is. So, I'm glad you brought that up.
I've got a mentor. He's kind of in a leadership management type role for a company we contract with, and he pulled me aside one day and we were talking about my future, and the only reason he has any appreciation for me is that I show up. I'm dependable. I show up to work, which to me isn't great. Like, I have a reason, and I want to be there, and I show up. But that's more uncommon than you would think today. Yeah. People just don't want to show up, and just by showing up, you can make a good impression. But what I was getting at is, he was just talking to me about my future, and I was talking about going back to college and finishing out a degree, or if I just want to stay with my company now and see where it goes and keep contracting. But he was talking about how he got to his job, and he's got a decent job. Like, he's in a good spot. He's been there for years, and I mean, he started there just as a technician, and he's worked up in the management role, and he's got a college degree. He has a degree, and he did a 4-year apprenticeship with the millwright company, and he was a millwright for a while. And he said that whenever he applied for the job that he has now within the same company, he was filling out all the paperwork and the job application, and at the very end, it had this big section. I think it said it was up to 20,000 words or something crazy like that. It was the allotted space he had to type, and he wrote out a big long essay type about his degree and all of his experience. And he said, I was sitting there and I read it through 3-4 times, and I hit backspace. He said, I erased it all. and I wrote, I'll have to paraphrase it. He said, all I wrote was I am driven enough to show up, or I'm dependable enough to show up, and I'm driven enough to keep coming back.
Yeah.
And that got him this to where he's at. That's just about showing up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, so much value in just showing up. And if you're a gym person, you like lifting, there's a lot of value if you've got an injury or if you've got something hurting, you're trying to nurture back. There's a lot of value in just getting in the gym, and even if you're not pushing serious weight, there's a whole lot of value in just getting in there and practicing a few things. Even if you're just stretching really good, doing really low weight, there's still value in that. You show up, getting a little bit better is a whole lot better than
sitting on the couch doing nothing.
Regressing, yeah.
Yeah.
That's big.
Mm-hmm. But I think we hit on the accountability part a little bit there, didn't we?
Pretty good.
I like
a lot
that
of accountability there.
I like that segment we just had there. Moving on, we want to talk a little bit about authenticity and how you got any stories you can think of with that?
Oh gosh, authenticity. Man, it's a core value. I should have something, but.
Well, you think about it, and I'll go ahead and go for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I was the one that would always play to. I don't know if you ever noticed this in me or not. When I was younger or a few years ago, I would always play to the people that I'm around. Say I'm around this one group, I'd act a certain way. If I'm around another group, I'd act a different way. I'd always just try to fit in with their groups instead of always just being myself. And I've noticed that, that's you really can't. You're really not happy when you're doing that because you're always just you're changing the way you act. You're changing the way you are so many different times, and the person that you really are is just kind of hiding back and is not really getting to express themselves or show who they are, who they want to be. And so I've noticed myself a lot in that, and that's I'm glad you brought authenticity into this core value because whether I realize it or not, that's something I've worked on over the past, losing all this weight was how I am around people. And I kind of take pride in that now a little bit, not too much, but just kind of, I feel like I'm the same person to everyone I am or everyone I'm around.
Yeah.
I'll treat everyone the same way. Hopefully that's good. Hopefully I treat everyone good, but I've really worked on that.
I have noticed that shift.
Yeah.
It's been a big shift for you.
I appreciate that. But that's something I don't know what flipped that switch in me or what I realized but if it was just like an overnight thing, but I've really just tried to be the same person around everybody and treat everyone the same way. And I don't have as big of a story as I did about the accountability factor, but that's just kind of how I feel about it being authentic. Because if you're not yourself, if you're trying to please other people, I mean, you're gonna please who you're gonna please. I mean, they're gonna have an opinion of you as soon as you meet them. So that opinion, it should be you. It shouldn't be this person that you think they want them to be. You shouldn't be trying to go over the top to like go out and impress somebody new. Just be yourself, and if they like you, they like you. If they don't, well, they won't mess with you a lot of the times. And a lot of the times, if they don't mess with you, you don't need to be around them anyways. You don't want them there.
Yeah.
So
that's absolutely right.
That's just kind of how I feel about the authenticity point and how. I don't know. That's just how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm done. You go.
You done? All right. So I'll share a little bit. I was growing up. I was a really low maintenance kid. At least I think. Dad, I know. TK, you're probably listening. BK might be listening. Love you guys. Miss you. Hope Colorado's well. But I feel like I was a pretty easy, low maintenance kid, and I always had an answer. People would be like, "Oh, what are you gonna do when you grow up?" Dad has worked for the government for a while, and government comes with pretty good benefits, at least where he's at. And I was always like, well, I want to work for the government. I want to be an engineer,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to have good benefits. And that was my answer for everybody. And
Yeah.
just in general, I wasn't. I always wanted to be older as a
Mm-hmm.
kid. Like up until a year ago, I think I wanted to be older than I was at
Yeah.
every point in my life, and I wasn't happy with where I was really ever. And that's good to an extent. You don't ever want to get complacent
Mm-hmm.
with where you're at, but you should always strive to do better, and there's always better. I'm sure the richest people in the world are still striving to be trillionaires instead of billionaires.
Yeah.
So I'm weaving a little bit here, but you know, as a kid and wanting to be older and trying to act older and trying to act as mature as possible, I didn't have a whole lot of messing up. I mean, I messed up my fair share.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I didn't have any big mess ups or anything as a kid. I was pretty low maintenance. But whenever I was turned loose as an adult, and this adult that I was trying to be at the age of like 10, whenever I'm actually 18, it's this shift in like, okay, here's some responsibility. I have to make myself get up, and I have to make myself go do something, and I have to figure out a strategy to get better, and I have to figure out a strategy to make a living, and I have to figure out a strategy. And so, like this, I wasn't authentic as a kid, and I was in school. Kind of whenever I made this realization that I spent all this time as a kid trying to be something I really wasn't, and then whenever I got to that point that I was trying to be, I had no clue what I was doing. Literally no clue. And not that any 19 year olds should really have a complete understanding of who they want to be, because our brains aren't even fully developed yet.
Yeah.
Like,
It's just unrealistic.
that's not going to happen for 5 more years for either of us.
Yeah.
On average. But I made a big change in my life. I dropped out of college against against my dad's wishes, and I really hope he's kind of come around to understanding my motives.
Mm-hmm.
But that decision, there was a lot of drive in that to find myself. That sounds kind of cliche, but to figure out who I am, and I'm much happier now that I've gotten into a career that I like, or a job that I like, and I'm figuring out more about who I am authentically, and it's much easier for me to make decisions just in general.
Yeah.
Whenever I have no doubts about who I am, I'm much happier now, and I've learned a lot about authenticity, and I find myself seeking out authenticity in like everything I consume, like social media. I really like long form discussion and people that aren't like, man, I don't want to call anybody out by name, but you see these influencers and they've got the perfect car, the perfect house. They've got everything that you would want to say is your perfect life, and that's. I don't even want that.
Yeah.
I don't think I want that, at least. I mean, I always want to get better.
Yeah.
And improve what I've got, but I think it's foolish to forget what you have looking at what anybody else has. And I don't think there's any value in that.
No, I agree. I agree with that. Going back, I know that decision for you dropping out of college, that was a tough one. I can imagine. But
I'll crack open too.
Crack open the unofficial, unsponsored water. But labeled off water. But I feel like that decision worked out in the best for you in your situation that you're in, because I don't know how personal you want to get with, but you're about to get married here soon.
Yeah.
So making that decision coming up, well, guess what? You don't have student loans, or as many student loans to worry about. You don't have you have a good paying job. It worked out for you.
It really did.
And it's not just because it just happened. No, because you worked at it, and I believe that God's got a plan for you, and I think He's, you're following in that plan. So, I kind of want college ain't for everybody. And, some people find that out sooner, or some people find that out later. I mean, but like for you, you tried it out, you didn't like it, and you quit it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because if you're going to be doing something, you got to do it because you enjoy it. You got to do it because you love it, or they pay you.
Or can they pay you? I love what I do, though. I really do. Like people. I work around a lot of people that hate what they do because, well, I don't know if I want to get into that too much, but there's a lot of advantages in what my company does.
Yeah.
And the position that I'm in with my company in comparison to the people we work for.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of advantages on my side.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that my boss has figured out. And I really, to go back to showing up, I had pretty good attendance for class whenever I was in college, but one of my other mentors, Big Serge, or Little Serge, an Italian, Serge taught most of the classes in the program that I was enrolled in.
Mm-hmm.
It was an engineering technology management program, and Serge is a brilliant guy. I may share this with Serge just to give him a good shout out. But he's got his hands in all kinds of things. He's a doctorate in engineering.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it's any specific discipline of engineering, but he's got his doctorate. I think he got that in Iowa. He did his undergrad here, and I know he traveled for his graduate school.
Mm-hmm.
But he taught a lot of our classes, and a lot of our classes we tried. Serge would tell us all the time is that the goal of our program was just to make us well-rounded and well-rounded problem solvers.
Yeah.
So we did all kinds of stuff. Like we did welding and we did machining. We ran lathes and mills and band saws and stuff, which that's helped me a lot in my career now. But anyway, I show up to class, and I had just applied for a job at Lowe's, and I'd interviewed, and I was supposed to start later that week.
Yeah.
I was supposed to start, and it was much better. It was a $3 raise from the job I was previously at, and just McDonald's. Not a fun job, but it was all right for college.
Story for a later day.
Yeah, but I get this job at Lowe's, and I'm pretty pumped about that because I hadn't worked in a few months, and I wanted to build back up the savings and have a little more financial freedom, which I was living with mom and dad and running around.
Yeah.
But I go to class one day, and Serge asks if anybody is looking for a summer internship with a small company. And so it kind of piques my interest, and then I'm like, no, I'm a freshman. I don't even need to worry about an internship right now. I can do that whenever I'm a junior and senior.
Yeah.
And Serge pulls me aside at the end of class, and he's like, hey, listen, man, I think you should really check this out. I think you'd be really great at it. And he was like, I know you're pretty inexperienced. You've done a few things. You've worked on your truck a lot, and like you know how to turn a wrench. That's really what they're looking for as a potential employee. And I was like, all right, set me up. And he got word of that through Billy Simon, and I met with Chris that week before I was supposed to start at Lowe's, and I talked to Chris, and I interviewed with him, and he took a chance on me, and I only got that opportunity because I showed up for class. And I remember specifically that class I did not want to go to because it was the last class before we had a test.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the test was, but I was like, it's just going to be a review kind of day, and I really don't want to show up for that. And like, I'm solid on this. I don't need review. Luckily, I did because it's unlocked so much for me. I've met a ton of really great people, and it's done a lot for me just showing up.
Yeah.
But you said something that I wanted to swing back on.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, God's got me on your
Mm-hmm.
run this morning. That's really, really awesome. There is scripture. I can't name it right now. I wish I was more prepared. But there is scripture where the Bible tells us to throw out our anxieties and be grateful instead.
Mm-hmm.
And that has helped me so much. So my parents moved across the country. Dad got a job in Colorado, and they went out there. It's near Denver, and he's working a great job right now. And my younger siblings, me and my older sister, are still here in Kentucky, but my younger siblings are getting this crazy opportunity to go to the best school system in the States. Very different from what we had.
What we experienced.
Very different. But they've got this opportunity, and Dad had talked about it, and like months before he ever got the job, he was like, "Listen, I think I'm gonna apply for this job. It's in Colorado," and he told me that, and I was like, "Well, they've talked about stuff like this before, and it's never happened. Just whatever, blocked it out." And then it was a night in December, I think, of 23, that I came home one day. Me and Raina went out and got dinner, and I come home one day, and Mom and Dad are sitting in the living room. And I was like, oh. Like, I walked inside, and the feeling in the room was just heavy. And I was like, oh, what's going on? And first they're like, oh, nothing. And I was like, yeah, right.
Did somebody die? What's going on?
Mom's sitting there like, and I was like, something's going on. And Dad looks at me, and Dad just nods his head, and he says, yeah. And the way I was looking at Dad, I'm sure that guys can kind of communicate without talking sometimes. And I think that's what we did, because I had a full understanding. And then we went outside on the porch, the front porch we're sitting above right now, and they broke the news to me and told me that Dad had a job and that they hadn't told anybody yet. And I was like, oh crap, it's time to be a man.
Yeah.
Like, I've either got to go out west with my parents and convince my girlfriend at the time to go with me, or I've got to leave all my friends here, or I can try to plant right here and kind of make my own beginning. And I decided to make my own beginning, and that was a tough decision right there. It was really scary. I'll be completely honest. I spent 6 months up and from then to the day that we drove their car out to Colorado and helped them move out. So much anxiety, so much stress, and then we get back, and I hadn't worked in a while because I was in school for that semester, and I had that vacation coming up, and we kind of have a tier list of people in the company, and work, as we get work, it kind of comes down the chain, and everybody was working, and my boss was like, you can come, but you can take a few weeks to spend with your family, and after you get back from Colorado, you can hit the ground running. We have a job at Aichi, and that sucked, but it was good work. And but anyway, I'd take my parents out there, and I drive back with my fiance, and I'm like, just, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna do this? There was a lot of doubt that I could even make it work, and this whole time I'm thinking, like, I'm gonna have to call Dad and be like, listen, I tried, I can't do it. Sell the house or have somebody else move in. I'll get out and I'll figure something out. Like I'm not gonna give up, but I'm gonna have to figure something else out. But luckily, I made it work. And one day, I remember it was like my first day off in weeks, because we had week work. I was working up in Florence, and we had weekend work that was stacked. And I mean, I'd been working, I think it was 16 or 17 days in a row at that point, and they were all pretty long days. but I have this day off, and I got to sleep in that day. I made my coffee that morning, ate some breakfast. It was a nice summer day. It was beautiful out, and I was walking. I took a walk around the property, and I guess I would say it was like meditation. I had my coffee. I was walking around drinking coffee, and my pups were out there with me, and I was just like letting all this stress and anxiety fall off of me. And I just recently read the scripture that I mentioned, but I'm looking around, and I'm like, God has put me in this situation that I could. God gave me that push, I think, to kind of step out and do my own thing, and I just trusted Him. I let go. I put down all my anxiety and just picked up gratitude and physically looking at the house and the property and everything God's blessed me with. Like I couldn't be more blessed. Honestly, I feel like I've put in minimal work and got out maximum everything. Like things have gone really well thus far. You know, I could probably screw it up, but and it's scientifically proven that you cannot be anxious and grateful at the same time. And that was a pretty recent discovery. Like I think that was part of a study that was conducted like 2 or 3 years ago. But that's been in the Bible for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Thousands of years.
Yeah.
It's been in the Bible. We could have just read that. We could have saved a lot of money on research.
A lot of answers there. People just pick it up and read it.
Just pick it up and read it.
But
if I'll go ahead and say it, if it's not been made clear, I think this is a faith-driven.
Oh yeah.
I think we're a faith-driven resource.
I agree with that. Because what are we without God? You know, we were made in His image, and you know we come from Him. You know, you just look down the line, and you just look around. It's like this in my belief, I've got full faith in this. I look around. It's like everything that you see is from God. And it has to be. I mean, it just has to be. I've had this conversation with a few people before, and like, man, there's no like other convincing that you can convince me otherwise, because just by the way that I see life grow, I mean, it comes from God, and I truly believe that. And like, what's the alternative? There's really not a solid.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go science based, but you know.
I think we may actually disagree a little bit. So I'm a big believer in science, but I think I believe in God. And I believe that God created the universe.
Yeah.
And I think God put in motion a lot of events to create the universe. And those events can partially, mostly, be explained by science.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Because, you know, in Genesis we get the descriptions like, well, God made the heavens and the earth. He didn't say how He made it. He just said He made it. So, you know, I agree with that. I can see where people can see that, and you know, I've never really thought about much of it before, but I can see where that thought process comes from, and you know, I can agree with that, because I've always thought it's like, oh, the Big Bang Theory. I'm like, well, I think God caused it.
Yeah,
you know,
He could have started the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
And science kind of says everything came from nothing, and I'm not sure if you've ever heard this, but we can actually see the Big Bang. Like the James Webb Telescope, we can see the Big Bang. Because the way light travels and all that,
all that weird stuff.
We'll bring in somebody smarter than me one day, but I really believe that there is no other way than for God to have set in motion the events of everything.
Yeah,
it just has to be.
Yeah, but going back to the gratefulness part. That's something that I've kind of, I wouldn't say we're running out of time, but we can talk forever long we want to, but we've been going for almost an hour.
Oh, gosh.
Look at us go.
Let's keep it rolling.
Anywho, but going on to the gratitude, shoot, what was I going to say? Here recently, I've been kind of I wouldn't say overwhelmed, but I've just kind of look around and I've just kind of recognized all the blessings that's been given to me, and I always almost feel like kind of guilty for having them because like kind of what you said earlier, minimum work, maximum.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what have I done to deserve this? But I think that's kind of a bad question to ask yourself because God has a plan for you. God's gonna he works in ways in your life that whether you may think they're good or you may think they're bad, they're set in place for you. And so why do I have all these blessings? I think it's because so I can help share with other people, uh, help influence younger people. Because like I mentioned earlier, I am a youth minister at Rice Station Christian Church, and I'm also I've coached middle school football at the local middle school this past fall, and tomorrow I doubt it'll happen, but tomorrow we're starting track tryouts.
Yeah.
So I got a call from the head track coach at the high school. He's like, "Hey, Gabe, you want to do this?" I said, "I guess I ain't doing nothing else." So, so just being around a lot of younger people, and they're not even that much younger than me, but just being around people my age, being around people, because those are high school students, but I'm not too far gone from that. But just being around people my age and that are kind of like minded, and uh, I think there's a lot of growth that can be happened if you surround yourself with like minded individuals that want to get better. So like the people that are gonna come run track, they're gonna want to do good. They're gonna want to compete, and so if I'm around them, I can bounce off of them. Like, well, if they're competing, I'm gonna want to compete. I'm gonna want to help them compete better. Or they may see me as like, well, what's this guy doing? Well, this guy can help me get better. Let's use each other. Let's rub off each other, and we can both get better. So, I don't even know where I was going with that, but that's kind of my thoughts on that topic.
I weave too hard. I try to bring it in too hard, and I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, yeah, there it is. But
anywho,
there's a lot of value in that, and I think we can even look back to our middle school and our late middle school and early high school days. We were pretty evenly matched. And I remember at practice one time, we were kids, and I remember one time we cracked in practice, like just cracked each other. I think we both fell on the ground and were like, for a few minutes. And I remember our dads sitting over there at the edge of the practice field.
Yeah.
And we walked over for water break, and they were talking about how we were both iron sharpens iron.
I remember that part.
That's what your dad said.
I remember that
I
part.
remember old Matt saying that.
I remember that part. I don't remember the hit.
Big shout out to Matt.
I think that was the CTE kicking in.
That's
a lot of stuff during the football practices I don't remember.
Had a lot of concussions in my day.
I never had a concussion that I know of.
Well, I never diagnosed with one, but I remember mad south and just throwing up in the bathroom next to Luke Williams' dad. That's all I remember from that night.
Really?
I remember going to the bathroom after the game and just throwing up next to
OB.
B Williams. I remember, and he said, "Son, you all right in there?" Because I was in the stall on my knees throwing up in this toilet. It's probably disgusting. I
remember
contracted a lot from that.
I remember your nose was like bleeding or something, wasn't it? And you were coming in and out of the game asking me what plays to run, like what plays we were running. I'm like, we're running power. I'm like, what I do on that?
Hey, you and Pud were like, hit that
guy right there.
Yeah.
You block him. Hit him as hard as you can. Then there was other people that we just had to tell them to do that anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that'd be a good clip for the TikTok, though.
Maybe, yeah. I've
to
started
advertise
TikTok
a little bit.
Yeah, we've got a YouTube. We're going to set up a Facebook. I know we didn't get too deep into any systems today, but I think it's good conversation nonetheless.
Yeah. Well, what else we want to hit a little bit? We kind of hit on allegiance a little bit.
We did hit on allegiance a little bit.
I mean, there's not much to go into that than others like, hey, be loyal to the people around you, and but we got some scripture here at the bottom. Let me look it up. Is that word for word what it says, or you want me to pull it up?
That is word for word. That is, I believe that's New English translation.
They got me using the NASB Bible, and I'd rather just use NIV.
Yeah.
NIV, I don't know. I haven't done much with the New English. I guess that's just what I'm used to. And there's nothing wrong with either translation you read. I'm not going to say it's like, oh, you have to read the KJV, or oh, you have to do this or that. I mean, it's all based off translations, all based off tradition, really, of what you grew up with. So there's really nothing wrong with.
Have you seen how accurate different translations are? Like original recordings of the books in the Bible compared to different recordings, because there's all kinds of different languages. I mean, there was Romans and like all kinds of history stuff. And gosh, I'll have to shout him out. He's on the Joe Rogan podcast. I can't think of his name. But I mean, he was just like incredible Bible knowledge. And he was talking about the different renditions of the Bible throughout history. And I mean, they're thousands of years apart. And they're word for word the same.
Yeah.
Like, word for word the same. That happens with like nothing.
Nothing.
I mean, there's folk songs in Eastern Kentucky, and they've been altered over years. Years they've been altered.
I think there's a guy up above that's kind of controlling the translation.
There might be somebody that's
might be
setting up some guide
might
rails.
be influencing.
He might have a little influence. I don't know.
But I was gonna say something, but I forgot what I was gonna say. I don't know. What we got? Isaiah 6:8. You picked this out. Oh, I was gonna talk about the translations. Like the Old Testament, it was written in Hebrew. The New Testament was written in Greek. Like that's two separate big things that are combined together, and you got to translate it from Hebrew. Then it got translated into Greek. Then the Greek got translated into whatever. Yeah. I mean, it's just
all kinds of
a whole big mess. And like how you're saying how accurate it is, I think someone has something to do with that. I really do. But Isaiah 6:8, it says, the NIV is what I'm reading. It says, "Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? And I said, Here I am, send me."
Love that verse.
Send me. I like that
verse. That's I mean, you can kind of pull that about any direction you want. But just I mean, you can even go to showing up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I heard the voice of the Lord asking, "Who will go for us?" And I said, "Here am I, send me." I mean, that's an awesome Bible
I'm here,
verse.
send me.
And then I threw in Philippians 4:13 there, and
I can do all things.
I guess a lot of people know that one.
Yeah, I can do all things through Him who gives me strength, or strengthens me, is a lot of translations.
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. There's a lot of value in that.
There is.
That is simple. That's short, simple, and sweet.
That's Paul saying that. Paul's writing to the people of Philippi. That's it. Whatever.
The Philippians.
The Philippian people. Yeah. Paul's saying that too.
He wrote a couple letters to them, I think.
He wrote a bunch of letters. About half the New Testament's letters from Paul.
But I love that. That gives me a lot of motivation throughout all my different parts of life. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you, and that you hear that, and that can be like, oh, cool, and then,
kind of like John 3:16. Cool.
Yeah, you grab that and you really just hold on to it, and you think about that. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. There's a lot more value in there than I think you can ever realize.
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever get the full potential from it. But
well, cool. I'm gonna have to use Isaiah 6:8 for tonight, because we're gonna talk about what we want to do planning wise, what we want to do if reaching out with the community, especially with the flood. Irvin is underwater, and
monsoon snowstorms.
So is a lot of Eastern Kentucky. Pikeville's got it bad.
Northern Kentucky too.
Northern has it bad too.
Yeah.
Pikeville's got it bad. Hazard's got it bad. We're gonna get it bad.
It's rough. London's getting hit bad.
Do they?
There's a whole bunch of snow out in western Kentucky. Simpsonville
Yeah.
had like 5 or 6 inches.
Yeah, Louisville got hit pretty bad too. With I saw a picture this morning. So
stay safe out there, Cam. Cam's from Louisville.
but if you're from Louisville, you gotta stay safe anyways.
Yeah. Well, he's from LaGrange. But he always says, "Oh, I gotta drive all the way back to Louisville," and it's like 30 minutes from Louisville. But whatever.
Anywho,
I'm not counting.
Send me. I like that. We'll end it. We'll end it on that.
Wrap up.
If you want to.
All right. Let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up.
Thanks, Gabe.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. This is a start.
This is a start.
That was the first Be Good to Your Brother podcast.
Hopefully it gets posted.
Hopefully it gets posted. I think it'll get posted.
I think so too.
I think we'll have minimal editing, and I think it'll be good.
Yeah. We hit our core values: accountability, allegiance, and authenticity. Our mission statement was we're going to be a resource for anyone interested in self-improvement. We're going to improve ourselves, and hope you guys can improve yourselves too by listening and taking our experiences. And we want to provide an education stream of self-improvement systems. So I think that's it. I think we hit a good one there.
All right.
Be good to your brother.
Be good to your brother. We love you. Jesus loves you.
We out.
Thanks, guys.